how I got started was my family. I grew up with animals. I'm the oldest of six, and our animals were more outside dogs. We grew up on a lot of property. I remember I would get home from school and my mom would say, we have to go find the dogs because they ran away again. And they really were just wild animals. And so I remember when I moved out, and I always had this thought, like, I want a dog that wants to be inside, that could sleep in my bed and all these things, right? And I thought that was the secret. So I got an Australian Shepherd when I was 21 years old. I named him Bumblebee because his butt just wiggles so fast.
Right.
And I gave him a bunch of love, and I let him sleep in my bed, and he had free reign of the house, and he hated his crate, so of course he never would be in there. And sometimes he would have accidents, but we just clean it up, And it wasn't until one night where my friends are like, come hang out, you were with your dog all the time. So I went and hung out with him. I was gone for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I come home and I open the door, and the first thing that hits me is this smell, and I'm like, oh no, something's wrong.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those guests watching us from around the world, Prince George is the center of British Columbia, about 500 miles north of Vancouver, or 800 kilometers, and an absolute fabulous place. Lots of wild and amazing place, lots of timber, lots of black bears, deer. Actually, I saw 6 deer this afternoon just running around the road, and an amazing place. So today, a very special podcast. We have a guest. His name is Brady Foulk. Brady is a very interesting guest. He is a keynote speaker in lots of locations. He's an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and also he is a trainer of dog training, in particular, in animals, I believe. Brady, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate everyone right now. And I want everyone listening right now to know that if you have a dog and you want them to listen a little bit better, you're in the right place. I'm going to share some tips and some tricks. And if you don't have a dog, but you want to learn how to inspire and lead in an elegant way, I'm also here to share some of those tips and tricks as well. So thank you again for everyone listening.
I love it, Brady, and so both my wife, myself, I've had dogs my whole life, and we have 3 dogs right now, and we'll show you some pictures that are in the truck with me. The one sitting right on my lap is Zachariah. He's a rescue. He was a surrender, and so we got him. We just love him. And then we also have 2 Westies, the 2 lined up. The one closest to us is Emma. She's about 2 years old. And then we got Bailey sitting in between. He's about 16. And so from a training perspective, we love them. They love us, obviously. Now, you won't like this much, but they sleep on our beds. And they're very dominating in terms of, I try not to fall off, but because, so especially with Zachariah, if I get up in the middle of the evening and have to go quickly to the bathroom, then by the time I get back, he takes over my pillow. And then he says, okay, what you going to do about it? So that kind of is, but we love them.
Going to the floor.
Yeah. And then the other thing that we have as a family, we have 7 horses. We both ride English dressage, and both my wife and myself, we love horses. We love animals of all descriptions. As I said to you earlier when I started, this afternoon, I was driving just outside of the city limits here, and there were 6 deer running around the road. It scared me because they will very quickly turn and go over the road. So everybody's very alert about that here. But there is deer, there is caribou, there is black bears, there are grizzlies. You name it, it's all here. It's amazing.
That is amazing. That's beautiful. You get like scenes every single time you're driving down the road.
Unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
and so where are you, Brady, physically located?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
In Austin, Texas. And
Yeah.
so tell us a bit about your background and, in particular, dog training is unique. Now, we love animals, obviously you do as well, but you understand them very well. When I grew up, I was born in Holland in 1940, and then when I was 18, I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force Special Forces. And part
Okay.
of Special Forces, not where I was located, but in the establishment where I was, they were training dogs, and especially for security, mainly
Mm.
shepherds. But I was always amazed by how well they trained, how well they listened, and developed a real respect for the service that they provide to the military and some of the things. So tell us a bit about your background. How did you get into training of not only dogs but primarily dogs, as I understand?
Yeah, I'm going to share over these next, what, like 45, 50 minutes now, some of my background and some of my tips and tricks. And before we
Right.
even begin that, I want everyone to know that, yes, shepherds are very smart, but Chihuahuas, Pomeranians, shepherds, border collies, and everything in between, the average dog can learn 165 words. So I have a pretty good feeling most dogs can learn
Ooh,
20 or 30 quite easily. I know, right? It's amazing.
amazing.
It's amazing. So yeah. So how I got started was my family. I grew up with animals. I'm the oldest of six, and our animals were more outside dogs. We grew up on a lot of property. I remember I would get home from school, and my mom would say we have to go find the dogs because they ran away again, and they really were just wild animals. And so I remember when I moved out, and I always had this thought, like, I want a dog that wants to be inside, that could sleep on my bed and all these things, right? And I thought that was the secret. So I got an Australian Shepherd when I was 21 years old. I named him Bumblebee because his butt just wiggles so fast.
Right.
And I gave him a bunch of love, and I let him sleep in my bed, and he had free reign of the house, and he hated his crate, so of course he never would be in there. And sometimes he would have accidents, but we just clean it up. And it wasn't until one night where my friends are like, come hang out, you were with your dog all the time. So I went and hung out with him. I was gone for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I come home and I open the door, and the first thing that hits me is this smell, and I'm like, oh no, something's wrong. And then I open my bedroom door and I look down and I see him just like wiggling at that butt, just like, Dad, look what I did. And I look to the right and the carpet is just shredded into like a million pieces. And I'm like, well, there
Oh my
goes my
God.
deposit. And I see all the poop all over the floor that he's tracked everywhere. And I'm like, okay, now I got to go rent a carpet cleaner. And it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I see little pieces of cardboard all over the floor too. And I'm like, what is this? And I look in the closet, and he ripped through a box inside a box to get to my dad's Father's Day present, this
Oh,
leather toiletry bag. And then like my Tim Ferriss book, I got this new Tools of Titans Tim Ferriss book, and he ripped out the first 30 pages of it. I hadn't even begun reading it yet. And I'm like, you couldn't rip up the old books? And that was my breaking point. And I don't know if anyone here listening now is at their breaking point, but that's why I'm sharing these tips and tricks to let you know
right.
that you can go from this to my dog. Now I can ask him to go get me a drink out of the fridge, and he can open up the fridge and get the water bottle or the beer and bring it to me, and then he can go back and shut the fridge because we don't raise no wild animals. And I'm training the littlest one how to ride a skateboard, and I've helped hundreds of people in San Diego at first, and now I'm in Austin, Texas. And I've trained other farm animals too, so I also enjoy just animal psychology, so principles that you can use for pigs and sheep and goats and horses, right? So I've trained a pig how to paint, and turkeys how to touch target sticks, and goats how to like go into little beds and stuff. So I've done all sorts of stuff with animals, and I just enjoy the art of it and kind of how you put it all together.
How do you do it, Brady? Like we talk to our doggies, they listen, but not well usually, but they know when we said that's bad, no, don't sit, all those basic things. But how do you go beyond that? Like you were saying, how many words can they understand? That you had a big number there.
Yeah, yeah. 165. So you can start teaching a dog in a variety of ways. You can either condition them, you can shape them, or you could capture behavior. That means if your dog is digging, you could technically capture that and teach them how to dig in a specific location in your backyard. Sometimes that's a way to get rid of that problem. Or sometimes you can teach them how to scratch at a board and they're filing their nails at the same time. So there's a few different ways you can do it, but I believe that one thing that is really helpful is targeting, and that's teaching them how to target their nose or their paws to something. So I take a target stick, and it's a stick with a little ball in the end, and it's how they train dolphins to do flips in the air and to do jumps and all sorts of stuff, right? You just train them to touch their nose to it, and then you can move it all around. So that's how I've begun training the pig and all these other animals and the dogs. It's the first thing I teach them is to follow this stick around, and then I can get them to follow it into a sit, into a down, into roll over, into sitting pretty where their paws are up, into playing
Why
dead.
would they do that? Is there some food at the end of the stick? But why would they, besides the thing that they follow, if I have a piece of meat in my fingers, then they know it right away and they want it and that's it.
You're right. It's almost the same thing, right? There's one little nuance that's different. When you're using food as a lure, unconsciously you're teaching them to always follow food. So if you're walking
Right.
around with a burrito or something, a piece of pizza in your hand, they're going to know, like, oh, that's what I do. I follow this food and then I get it. I don't want my dogs to think that. So I teach them to follow around this stick, and I do first train it by associating it to food. So I'll put the stick out and then I'll click and then I'll give them a piece of food right next to it, and then I'll put it out and they'll touch their nose to it, and then I'll click and then I'll give them a piece of food, and then it
Okay.
becomes grandma's rule. And grandma's rule in my household, I don't know if it was like this in your house. If my friends came over and they're like, "Can Brady come and play?" My mom would look at me and she goes, "Is your room clean?" And that was the moment. If my room was clean, I'm good. If my room wasn't clean, she would look at me and she goes, "How are you going to go out and play with them if your room's not clean?" And that's on me now. So it's like I have to do what she wants in order to get what I want. And so
Right.
I show the dog when they touch this target stick and they move around with it, then I'll give them what they want. And that could be food, that could be a toy, that could just be some love. There's a bunch of different ways you can reward and reinforce a dog.
Yeah, the interesting part that we have is that very basic, I guess. Sunday mornings, then when we kind of relax, and kind of watch TV, and then the same that the doggies are all around us. Then you see what my wife does. She makes coffee for us, and she brings it upstairs in our bedroom. But then she always in her hand she brings up some of the things that they like, the fish, the dried fish kind of things that they
Mm-hmm.
already know she has those. They're already waiting there by the door. They know what she's going to do. She's going to put the one coffee down, and then she puts the one down by my bed, and then she gives me the food. They're already standing there waiting for it. And then they know
Yeah.
they're going to do it twice. She's going to go for coffee again after we got that one done. And then again, they know already, standing by the door waiting for her. And if she hasn't got it in her hands, then they say, "Where is it?"
Now, this is a great example of grandma's rule, and this is what your dogs believe starts the trigger. They go there, and this is where they're reinforced. And my dog, they also get bedtime cookies at the end of the night. And the way that they tell me they want it is they go to their bed or they go to their crate. And they know if they're in their crate, I'll go to the cookie jar and I'll go get a cookie out and then I'll put it in their crate and I'll give it to them. So we
Yeah,
just have a different way of communicating, but it
right,
gets the same result done, you know?
right. So what
So
is
now the
the,
question is, how do you do that?
yeah, that's the question.
So The first thing you got to do is you got to start giving your dog this opportunity to think and to become a thinking dog. And the first game I do to teach them this, it's called It's Your Choice, and I learned it from my mentor. Her name is Susan Garrett, and she's a 7-time world agility champion in Canada. And she's brilliant. And this is one of her games. It's called It's Your Choice. And you take some food and you put it in your hand. Now, obviously, when you put the food in your hand, your dog's probably going to come over and take it out and try to
Yeah.
steal it from you. So all
Yeah.
you do is you close your hand. You can use your other hand to cover it too.
Yeah.
When I was doing this with the pig, I used the bowl and I used the lid to cover it because pigs are a little bit wild. So dogs typically they'll just lick your hand and their paw at it for a little bit. Now I play this game with puppies. Sometimes they'll paw at my hand for 5, maybe 10 minutes without giving up, and they'll just keep going. And I just keep my hand shut. Okay. As soon as they stop, I open my hand again.
Okay.
And what do? They most likely try to take the food again. So then I close my hand again. And then
Yeah.
they're like, huh, this is frustrating. And
Yeah.
so they back up. And then I open my hand. And then they try to take it again. And I close my hand. And then they're like, hmm. And then they back up. And then I open
And
my
then they
hand. And
don't.
then they wait.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's the key,
And then I
right?
give them one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now they
So
acquired that. Yeah.
now they're thinking. And now I got them engaged. Typically, their tail's wagging the whole time
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
like, oh shoot, this dude's listening to me and this game is interesting. Like, how do I get this treat? For me personally, I'll tell you a little story. I'm the oldest, like I mentioned, and I had this brilliant idea during Halloween to tell my siblings that we should say, trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat at all of our neighbors' houses. And of course, all of our neighbors knew us because we were always causing trouble and playing sports and like doing stuff in the neighborhood all the time, you know? So everyone gets ready for Halloween. My siblings all agree to do it. We pull up to the first house. We ring on the doorbell. The guy comes out with his bucket, and we go trick or treat, smell our feet, give us something good to eat. And he like just looks at us and smiles, and he doesn't give us any candy. And then one of my siblings try to take it, and he just covers the bowl. And then they stop, and then there's a line forming behind us, and it's getting awkward. And one of my siblings go, "May we please have some candy?" And he goes, "You may." And he gives us all some candy. And then we're like, okay, well, that's better. We go to the next house and we try like trick or treat, smell my feet again. Same thing happens. My siblings like, may we please have some candy? And they give it to us. Obviously, my parents told them don't give them any candy unless they say please. And
Yeah.
by the third house, we didn't do it anymore. So that's kind of how this rule is working in like elegant ways of applying pain. So I show the dog, then I put their bed next to them to as we're playing this game, right? And so when they back away, I throw the treat on their bed. And now they're like, okay, they run over their bed, they eat the tree. And then I put out my hand again. And now they're thinking, they go over to their bed again. And I toss another treat on the bed. And then they eat it. And then I toss a treat off the bed. And then so they get off the bed. And then I have my hand open again. And now they're thinking. And then they go over to the bed and they start sniffing the bed. And I toss another treat on it. So I'm showing them if they want these treats, you have to go away from me and you have to go onto the bed. And this game gets bigger and bigger to when someone can
Yeah.
knock on the door, the dog knows I don't open the door until they're on their beds.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. You see, what I find so interesting is that, but I've always found my wife and myself, we love animals, right, of all descriptions. And you know, like even the smallest one, I would never step on it. You know, and they seem to feel that. Like you know, we are quite involved here. You know, with the animal rescue, and we've been quite involved with donations that we have made to it and supporting them in different ways. But every time I go there and see the different animals, I always feel they feel right from the beginning when you're close to them, they know their instinct tells them in virtually all cases that this is a good person, or this one will not hurt me, or whatever negative they may watch for, and they feel that, I kind of think.
No, I think you're right. I think they have a great sense of character. Sometimes I come along when the dogs have gotten a sense of something that may not be true. And for whatever reason, right, dogs react to certain things, and it's like, this is scary. And I'm like, okay, this isn't as scary as you think it is. And puppies go through it all the time. They think plastic bags are scary. But as dogs get older, normally they do really well. But there's some dogs in rescues that could use some training, and shown that people are nice. Like the pig that I trained was fearful of everyone because it came from a very messed up situation. So she had the
Yeah.
association humans and other pigs are bad. And I had to show her that that's not true. And I did that by teaching her these games.
Right. Yeah.
But
The
yeah, you're
other
right. Normally,
Yeah, the other thing that we find when you saw him in the car with me and my wife sitting on the other side is that what we do is we live in Prince George, or I work in Prince George, and then we have another place in Victoria, British Columbia. You probably heard of that. It's on Vancouver Island, so we have a place there. So I spend my weekends there, Friday afternoons till Monday mornings, and then I come back here. So, but normally what we do is, we are obviously close to our horses and all
yeah,
of those kind of things. But with the dogs, what we do, we usually take them with us in the car, not safe necessarily, and I know that, but they want to be in the car with us,
yeah, of
So,
course.
and then we go to, then we have a dog park, and then already they know the way we are driving that we're not going to go into town. We're driving in the direction of the dog park, and they're already getting excited. Zachariah already starts shaking because he's so excited he's going to the dog park. And then by the time we get there, they can't wait. And we usually go on Saturdays mornings, or in the same on Sunday mornings. And there are other dogs around there, and I kind of carry them out there, and they just go and they run 100 miles an hour, and but they're so smart in terms of you're driving. They know already you're going. Okay, I think we're gonna go to the dog park now, and all three of them are doing that. So amazing.
No, they really are brilliant. They're picking up on all sorts of things. And even when people come to the door, it may not be the doorbell that triggers them. It may be the car beeping, or their footsteps. There's almost, and I tell people too, the dog's only job is to pay attention to things. Like they wait around all day, just waiting and listening and just observing things. So they're very sharp. They're very receptive, especially when you can start setting these things up. I run into the situation a lot with training dogs not to jump when people come home, or training dogs to put on their
Right,
leashes.
right,
And it's like, I get that you're excited and I want to be excited with you. And there's a nice way of doing that.
right.
And there's a not so nice way of doing that. And I feel like it's our job as parents to set that culture. And I just want to let you know too, there's no judgment for letting dogs sleep on their bed, or how you transport them, or what type of food you feed them. I believe that my job is to fit into your culture and to give you tips and tricks and to share the things. And it's your job to try it on. And if it fits, great. And if not, you can leave it on the rack. I don't care.
Yeah,
So, um, but it's brilliant. We're training dogs to not jump on you. I play a fun game and I'll get really excited, which typically is going to trigger the dog to jump on me, right? So I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you look so adorable! Oh my goodness!" And I'm obviously, my tone is way higher, and then they start jumping on me, and then I'll like turn my back and I stop talking, and
yeah,
then they pause for a second and they get off, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's so amazing!" And then they jump on me again, and then I turn away again, and we'll do this game for when we first play it, maybe for like 3-4 minutes, and the dog starts realizing the excitement only happens when all four paws are on the ground, and as soon as you jump, like, it stops. And then if I bend over to give you a treat and you try to take it out of my hand, I also stop, and that like stops the whole game, right? And so we're like always communicating with them what I want, what's acceptable and what's not, and how we tell them it's not acceptable. We can do that in elegant ways by like covering the candy bowl, like I mentioned, or by turning and taking away, or by closing our hand. Sometimes when I go to parks, if a dog's going real crazy, like I have a 9-month-old puppy right now. We pull up to the park and sometimes she starts barking.
yeah,
I put the car in reverse and I do a lap, and like I'll drive a lap around, and then they're like, "Oh, we're leaving," and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'll circle back in and I'll pull in the parking lot. And then everyone's like a little bit more thoughtful, and then they're quiet. If they're quiet, I'm good. I unbuckle my seatbelt, I take everyone out. If someone starts barking again, we do another lap. And I'm like,
Okay.
it's up to you. It's like I want to go to the park as well.
Interesting, Brady. So, like, I've been around for quite a while. I'm nearly 84. I'm going to be 84 later this fall. But,
Yeah.
so I've seen a lot of dogs. We've always had in our family a dog. And, but what I see now, even in Canada, North America, but animals are, people have a lot more animals, may they be dogs in a lot of cases, cats or whatever they have, and then the whole commercial side of animals in terms of what we feed them is that I see commercials now on, I don't know if it's on CNN, but certainly the American networks and the Canadian networks of, to have healthy food for your animals, and that where people are a lot more proactive, and it's not just a dog or just a, that lays there. It's a part of the family, and that in particular, I believe it's been a gradual process, I guess, but especially the last 20, 25 years, and more so all the time, that I see all these dog stores. They have everything that you can possibly imagine, and then with the food that we feed them. My wife is very particular about what food she feeds our doggies. They get a lot of vegetable and all of the, she's very conscientious about what they get.
Yeah, no, it plays into a lot of things. Even sometimes aggressive dogs, their diet plays into it. And I'm transitioning over to more of a natural diet where they're getting more greens, like they're taking their probiotics now and their greens by supplements, right? But yeah, there's things that we're always learning and growing from, and how people feed their dogs is it's always interesting to me, but whatever kind of meets people's needs, wherever they're at life.
And especially for, I see them now where they have become, from a health perspective, companions, and we see them regularly on flights or in particular locations where they are a companion to a person that has anxiety, or for whatever reasons they have been, the animal is part of them or close to them. In other cases, obviously, for people that have eyesight challenges, where they are so involved and so well trained, I find that just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I do too. There's levels to dog training. I've done a few service dog training, but I haven't done like a seeing eye training dog, or even like there's bomb dogs who like sniff out all sorts of things, right? So there's so many levels to it, and dogs continue to amaze me at what they're able to do. I've trained them to like open the fridge for someone who's in a wheelchair, and to be able to pick up a credit card or their cell phone if they needed it, and things like that. And they're amazing, right? And there's a myriad of reasons why people could use an emotional support dog or a service dog. And it's also important that the dog has the confidence and the capabilities to take on that support, because the dog needs to be very grounded as well. And in a bunch of different environments, like going through airports, it's a really stressful place. I get stressed out as a human. I need to stay grounded and take a breath. So
I do too. Yeah, yeah,
right? So it's
yeah.
like, can you imagine a dog? So it's like you got to take the time and help train them and go through these moments with them. It's a tedious process, but it's a very rewarding one. It's amazing. And again, they continue to amaze me at what they're able to do. It's insane, and the accuracy at which they do it, like sniffing out gas lines and stuff. They're amazing.
You see, the amazing part also, and on that same idea is that, as I said, usually Friday afternoons I fly from here to Victoria, and then at the airport I have a little TJ Jeep that I keep there for when I arrive in Victoria. I go to my little TJ, and then I drive home. It's about 6 minutes away from there. And then
Yeah.
sometimes if my wife is not there and she's gone with the dogs, then soon as she arrives with her car, they already know I'm there because they remember the TJ Jeep is me.
Isn't that
You
amazing?
understand that, right? To
Yeah.
me, I just can't believe it. They already, by the door is open and they storm upstairs. They know what floor I'm going to be at. They know where my office is. So I see them coming up 100 miles an hour, not the 16-year-old, but the other two, 100 miles an
Yeah.
hour. They run into my office, look around, and no, he's not here. Then he must be in the bathroom. And if he's not there, they must be, So, yeah, I find it amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, they really are brilliant. And they're so unconditional with their love too. I feel like they're spiritual animals. They're here to teach us lessons, and to give us this support and unconditional love. And I also feel like the problems they give us too are opportunities. I feel like the obstacle is always the way with no matter anything that you do in life.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah, the hardest
yeah.
part of animals is usually their lifespan is usually much shorter than ours, and and once it is part of the family, then it's obviously, but it always is, it's hard to say goodbye, right? So
Yeah, that is tough. Yeah, that's an interesting part. Was the service dog I was working with is service dogs, they have to retire by the time they're 8 years old,
yeah,
and you should get a new dog. And it was a process working with her of like letting go of her current dog and getting her new puppy to like be where she was at. And she's like, she's not as good as my other one yet. And it's like, yet, right? That's the important part, is we're working through these things. And certain dogs, she said this first dog she had is amazing. She just learned everything right away. And the second dog, she had to reach out for help with me, and like there was more problems and all these things. And we worked through them, and it was an opportunity to grow. It was an opportunity to take a little humility and to ask for help. And I feel like even the best people, and whatever it is in their industry, they know that there's always someone better out there, and humility is always something I'm trying to add to my life. And um, it's a brilliant thing.
so I would say that that especially in North America, I think in some areas around the world where dogs or animals as companions are different or are not so often used or part of the family. Where with us, I believe both in Canada and the United States, it's a very common practice to have an animal of some sort, usually a dog or cats. Cats are obviously different. They are. It appears to me we also have had a number of cats. We don't have right now, but normally, but they seem to have a mind of their own. Although I get along with them well, but they are have a whole different approach.
Yeah, I believe all animals can learn. I have two guinea pigs here, my partner and I, and I've trained them to come when called. So if we knock on the side of their crate, they know they're about to get fed, so they run down to the bottom, and then we get the hay, and we'll give them some hay. And this target stick, I've taught them to touch their noses, target sticks, so they can follow this thing around on their little ladders and stuff. And I found that all animals are capable of learning. Cats are a little bit more prey driven. And that's because their prefrontal cortex, and that's the thinking part of the brain, like the decision making. That's where like this it's your choice game comes in. We're activating that part of the brain. Is a little bit smaller, so that means they're driven more by movement to chase things, to hunt things, But you can utilize that as well. When I teach a dog to come when called, typically I'll run across the room and I'll toss a treat on the ground and I'll say search, and then they'll eat it, and as they're eating it I'll run to the other side of the room, and then they'll turn around and they'll like start chasing me to the other side, and then I'll say search and I'll toss another treat, and we'll run back and forth. Or I'll like run and hide behind a tree and initiate their prey drive. But I've seen videos of goldfish being trained to jump through like little hoops. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. There really is no limit. And when you look at ants and like some of the things that ants are building, you're like, y'all are wild. It really is incredible.
Yeah, I find that too because we have water and where we had goldfish, and a lot of times we feed them powder, the fish, and they eat it and all this, and I stick my hand in the water and I go like this around them, and they just swim through it, and and especially with some of them, I know which one will do it, and then automatically when I put my hand down, they're already looking for to kind of swim through it. I find it amazing.
See, you already are a brilliant trainer. Look at you.
Well, I love animals,
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's the first step is you just got to connect and appreciate their world. And if you
right.
understand that they don't speak English, it's very helpful to start thinking about, okay, like how can I communicate with them? Body language is something that's really big. That's where like turning your back, and sometimes I'll turn and look away from a dog. And even for humans, right? If we're walking on the street and I like turn and look away from you, you're not going to keep looking at me. You're like, oh, this person doesn't want to talk to me. And
Yeah,
so it's like very simple ways of communicating. But when you take that extra second and you are thoughtful about it, it goes a long way. And I feel like dogs have five needs. There's the need for safety, there's a need for variety, there's a need for love and connection, there's a need to feel important, to have significance, and there's a need for growth. And I feel like training is one way to meet your dog's need for growth. And I feel like if you're not growing, you're dying. And I feel like it's really important to be showing our dogs how to, like, they can like jump through your arms, dogs can, or like my puppy will like jump on my back so I can do push-ups. On my Instagram and TikTok, I'm doing a push-up for every new follower I get with her on my back. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just like fun, right? They're just silly things, but they're teaching the dog at the same time how to work through challenges, how to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable, how to balance, how to, she can like sit and lay down on my back now too. So it's like how to do these behaviors in like uncomfortable positions. There's a ton of different benefits to it, but it's a little unconventional teaching through games.
yeah, yeah. So your training then, Brady, you're on a website. Have you got a website that you're using for interacting with people from all over the world, or how do you do it?
I do. Yeah, you can go to info.newdirectiondogtraining.com and you get some more information about me. And then I use my social media a lot, so Instagram and TikTok to interact with people. If you want to play some of these games that I described, they're in a PDF, and if you just send me a message, I'll send these games to you and some videos that you can start playing. And I also have a book club where I bring together people and we go over different books that have helped me along my journey, and we share wins about our dogs, and people share problems, and I help brainstorm with them kind of some opportunities and things maybe you could see a little bit differently, or um, how to train maybe an incompatible behavior or two.
So all on the same website then, Brady? That would open
Uh,
all of the.
on the website, you can get more information from me. You have to go to my social media to get this PDF. So on my social media, the name is N is in new, D is in direction, dog training. So ND dog training. You'll see me on there with all the videos, but yeah, send me a message on there, give me a follow, give me a like, and it's how you can support what I do and continue to share this with more and more people.
So ND, like Nico Delta dog training.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so the interaction now, what I find, and you find it probably the same, is that we do a lot of podcasting. You're a keynote speaker, so am I. I've done a lot of speaking in different areas, and what I found is it takes a lot of my time in a lot of cases. And so when we started podcasting a couple of years ago, already 3, 4 years ago, first blogging, then kind of interacting using local or regional television channels, or and then from there on in, COVID came, and then saying, what do we do now? Because we couldn't do that anymore. So I had an apartment here in Prince George, developed it into, a studio. And so we started podcasting, mainly in the region where we are here. And we have amazing individuals all around us. And then said, well, maybe I have to set up another studio in Vancouver, because we are running out of people. And then the more we thought about it, then we said, how about virtual? Because virtual has developed now. It didn't always used to be that way, as CNN and NBC and all those other channels used to be just one person. And if they tried something else, then it usually had all kinds of challenges and problems, but not anymore. So now I can sit here with you while I'm in central British Columbia, a number of thousands of miles away from you in Austin, Texas, and we can sit here like interacting about topics like we are, for all intents and purposes, sitting in the same room. And then as you do, as I do, is we podcast all around the world. We have people from Peru, Central Europe, you name it, from all over the place. Mainly North America right now, but it's still in its infancy, in my opinion. It still will go further and broader. And then the other part about it is that while you and me are interacting about topics that are close to your heart, mine as well, we love animals, and so do many, many of our people that are watching. And we already know that in our discussion that we are having, likely tens of thousands of people will be watching it. And that's absolutely unbelievable and hard to imagine, but that's how effective it is, and that is the evolution of media platforms that that become more and more active, and more can we interact with people from around the world.
Yeah, John, you are demonstrating this idea. If you're not growing, you're dying, and you're growing and you're adjusting and you're playing this game. And I think podcasts are taking off. I feel like they're a very powerful way to market yourself and to go about things. And truthfully, I think there's so many interesting people that are doing good all around the world. It's just amazing to showcase and highlight what they're doing, and just spread that information around.
Yeah, and so what I found very rewarding, and not only here but all over, is so being very involved in animal protection and helping animals that are in difficulty and troubled. That there are opportunities in virtually all communities where there is help required. We have that here in this region. We have been very, very proactive in that, and a lot of times immensely rewarding, because to see some of the situations where they are being challenged and finding a place that can kind of reactivate them and give them positive feelings of being loved again, and it's so very, very important, I believe.
Yeah, no, it really is. I'm working with a client in California right now. We're doing it all virtually, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without some of the advancement that's been happening. And this dog is very fearful, and we're setting up some things intentionally, some very positive emotions for her because they rescued her a few months ago. And it is something that I just appreciate so much. They set up their camera, and like I can see their living room, and they're just like listening. I'm like, okay, now drop the treat in this bowl over here. Now, okay, walk away, give her some space, and like we're working through it all. But no, it is a really special thing.
I find that amazing, Brady, what you were saying, because actually that is the power of the media, where you can use it to really interact with somebody with their challenges they're having and seeking help and assistance. That I find that amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. They're texting me, and I'm like, okay, take a video and send it to me. And I'm like, okay, like you see this, you see this, and I'm like, okay. So it really is. It is amazing, and it's only getting faster and better with AI and different things. We're gonna have so many different ways to interact. Like I imagine once we're all wearing goggles, there's gonna be certain training protocols where you can just go in and interact. And I'm just like, I don't know. There's wild things probably coming.
See how it all has evolved already, Brady.
Yeah.
I'm from the time that, at 84. So when I grew up, there was nothing like this. When I first came to Canada and, to here to British Columbia in 1965, I would send telegrams to my parents. I'm okay. Stop. Need some money, stop. I'm okay, found a job. I'm really excited about it. They're paying me $2 an hour, and and all of that kind of stuff. Then
Wow.
it evolved, and we got. Can you imagine a cell phone? It's about this big, and the ones, and now we have the cell phones, and I can push the button. I can talk to somebody in Holland like instantly. Have a picture if I wish, and it's still evolving. So,
Yeah.
and then, as I said earlier, he was sitting, interacting, you and me together, uh, 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 having a discussion about the things that we love and we love about animals and the animal world and all the things around it. And so do many, many of our guests that are watching us feel the same and are learning things from you in particular, and then getting probably a charge out of some of the things that I'm doing is that, coming back to the picture of, have you got a picture, Andrew, of Zachariah, like this one here we're going to put it on the screen. Is there we have, you can see Zachariah, right?
I can.
Yeah,
How'd
so
you get him up
Zachariah,
there?
huh?
He just jumped up there?
Yeah, no, I put him down there. It's by my computer, and that's a book
Okay.
that I wrote, Against All Odds, and I thought it was neat. He likes to sit on my desk when I'm working on my computer in Victoria, and so I found Zachariah. He was a surrender. He was aggressive, and, and they were worried about him. And he is just an absolute unbelievable dog. He loves to snuggle. He loves to hug and smart. And was about 9 when I found him here. So
Wow.
and they were worried, and that I said, don't worry, we'll stay with him until he calms down. And he was a bit aggressive, and especially going bark, 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 that kind of a thing, but not
Yeah.
biting, but just aggressive, and but much less so now. And he got along with the other dogs, and we just kind of love him. So
Yeah, the rescue dogs, it is very interesting working with them. And I rescued a dog about 4.5 months ago now, and she's very shy and very timid, but it really brings to light that there's many different ways you can lead. And sometimes dogs who are aggressive, it's because people have led with pain and intimidation. And I remember there one of my old roommates. I had to call the police and I ripped my shirt, but I had a suspicion that he wasn't treating my dog right, and I set up a camera and I recorded him. And sure enough, he went out to the back and he kicked my dog, and then he started punching him. And
oh no,
man, he just went back inside and started doing the dishes.
oh my
And
God.
yeah, it really lit a fire inside of me. I went in there and I grabbed him and I threw him to the ground, and we started wrestling. And I had this thought like, man, if you do something, like, you're no better than he is. And so I called the police, so it was at least documented that they said we can't do anything. You just might as well find a new roommate. And I was like, that's a great
Yeah.
idea. it took it took lots of work. It set Bumblebee and I on a path of, oh, I was talking about associations and dog's sense of character. And Bumblebee, all of a sudden, now when he saw someone who looked like my roommate, he would growl and get afraid. And I'm like, it's not
Yeah,
the same person, man. Right? So he messed up that little thing inside of his brain. Not permanently, luckily. You can rewire these things and start showing them like happy moments
exactly.
and such. But I learned that there's three ways you can learn. I've been talking about them throughout, but I'll summarize them real quick. You can lead with intimidation, and it's kind of how my family led with dogs at first. They were just outside dogs, and you can lead with bribes, and it's how I raised Bumblebee for the first 6 months. I just let him run around the house and do whatever he wanted. But the problem with bribing and incentives is they keep needing more and more and more. You need more treats each time,
Yeah,
right? They're
yeah,
smart. And then the third way is growth and inspiring them to go through the hard things and do some of the
yeah,
things like we talked about in this show.
yeah,
And I'm sure we all can remember the leaders who bribed us and intimidated us, and we know how it feels looking back, and
exactly,
probably
exactly.
go back to them. Then you can remember the teachers and the leaders who inspired and rewarded you for growing, and you can see their face and hear their voice and remember how they made you feel. And I always think with dog training, it's how you want to be remembered with your dog, because you don't have them for a long time, so you might as well make
Exactly.
this time a good.
Yeah,
And
love them.
yeah, I want my dog to feel loved. I want them to grow. I want them to learn things. I want
Exactly.
them to live on the edge of what they're capable of doing. So I just like to remind people when they get furious and a little upset at their dog, it's a reminder
Yeah.
to get curious. And my new dog's name is Curiosity, because she came with a lot of problems at first, quote unquote. But again, problems are opportunities.
Yeah, no question. The one thing that I saw, I don't know, you probably saw it as well at one point on YouTube, which I thought was very interesting. It probably was in the States someplace. This one fella was walking with at least 6 dogs, none of them on a leash, and they were all walking close to him. You know, they didn't go forward, they were all walking close to him and through a busy street. And then then the people said, well, he must be intimidating them. That's why he's doing it. So they had some people from the city go down and seeing, but he wasn't. He was loving the dogs. And somehow he had this interaction with them. But if you watched it on YouTube, if they came down the street, all 6 of them, but all 3 on each side, walking next to him. I find
Yeah.
it amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. It's requires a lot of training to be able to have 6 dogs with that much impulse control, and to stay in that
And no
tight of a
leashes.
formation and no leashes. Right?
Yeah.
It's a little unnatural at the same time too. Dogs, they go and they explore and they do things. Sometimes I've seen some really good trainers. They go on walks with their dogs, and their dogs will explore, and you just have a really good recall, and they come back and they stay within maybe like 15-20 feet of them. So it is very impressive. There there's all sorts of different methods and ways to train dogs and to get
Right.
brilliant behaviors. All of them work to a certain degree. So it's just
Is the
yeah.
underlying something very simple? First and foremost, they have to know you care.
They do have to know you care. You have to understand and appreciate their world. Like I get a lot of problem dogs, a lot of dogs that like to move a lot of dogs that like to explore a lot and see new things. And I have to understand that about them, and I have to make sure that their needs are getting met. So it may not be
Right.
food that they want. It may be a game of chase or a game of tug or
Yeah.
to go play outside. It could be something totally different. So I have to understand kind of what fulfills the dog, kind of what's their love language, and meet them like that.
So as you kind of look forward, Brandy, you have this unique niche of an international trainer and a very successful one. How do you see your future becoming more and more international, more and more probably, as we talked about, where social media become more involved, that your client base goes much broader from where you are now, but not only in Texas or the United States or North America, but well beyond that.
Yeah, the goal is to grow online and to start speaking more at virtual stages, physical stages, and continue growing this family of dog trainers that I imagine, because we're in a cancel culture in some ways. And with some dog trainers that people don't agree with their methods, they go out to cancel them, to punish them. And I understand why they're doing it. And again, it doesn't make us any better than them. So I feel like the best way to fight against it, or dance with it, if you may, for a better word, is to build a bigger, a louder voice. So my goal is to continue spreading these ways of what's possible with animals, how much they're truly capable of learning. And these games that I explained, they're really quite simple and they're really fun to play, especially when you start understanding how to move it. And there's lots of variations to playing these games. I play hide and seek with my dogs every day, where they wait in their crate and they sit, and then I go hide in the closet and I call them and they have to use their nose and find me. It's brilliant. I love it. So really what's the next stage for me is in Texas, building a facility so I can start growing my home base here and to start opening up more locations as I'm speaking and spreading this message around.
I find it amazing, Brady. I was very excited about having you on my podcast because we have the same feeling about animals. The both of us and my family, my wife, we love animals, and so it has been a delight and a privilege.
Yeah, John, I feel the same way. I love talking about what's possible and just hearing about kind of what your life is like with your animals. So thanks for sharing with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Brady. We'll stay in touch. Take
We
care.
will.
Bye bye.
See ya.